everyone. Welcome to the first Mongoose Publishing Discord Live. In honor of our recent HighGuard 2022 update, I'm here today with Kat and Chris. So we've already had some sent in from Discord and a few other social media platforms. So how this will work today is I'll answer the ones that we've already made note of, but if you've got anything else that comes up, just put it in the chat. And if you're listening on the recording, put them in the comments and we will get back to them for you. So we'll start off with some introductions. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Alicia. I recently started at Mongoose Publishing as the head of marketing. So I recently graduated from university doing business and marketing management. So Mongoose is actually my first graduate job. So tonight's live is very special to me because it's my first event. So just wanted to say thank you to everyone that's contributed questions and whoever's tuned in this evening. So we've got Chris here, who is our writer, and Kat, who is our layout and graphics artist. So, Chris, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Chris Griffen. I've been a freelance writer for Mongoose for a few years now, and HighGuard is my latest high-profile project. And when I say I mean the team that I assembled to help me put it together. It was too big a job for one person, which I was lucky enough to get some help from several other people, many of whom were also published authors for Mongoose.
Wonderful. And Kat, you want to take it away?
My name's Katrina Hepburn, and I've been working for Mongoose for almost a couple of years now. I do graphic and layout, so all the prettyfying of the books. That's what I do. Yeah, that's about it.
Wonderful. So we're just going to jump straight in. So, Chris, could you introduce HighGuard to us?
Yeah, sure. HighGuard is the book of traveler spacecraft. It covers just about everything that it adds quite a bit to what the core rulebook covers, which is primarily in the latest incarnation of the core rulebook, basic construction rules are present, and then there's spacecraft operations and space combat. So HighGuard is there to add significantly more information to that. All kinds of additional weapons for ships, tons of options, and additional information that will help you as a player or a referee to incorporate spacecraft of all types in your campaigns. And it comes from a long line of HighGuards, the first one being the one that Game Designers Workshop first published in 1979, and its primary purpose, I think, was pretty much to introduce advanced naval characters and mostly big ships. And our modern HighGuard also does that to some extent, but it's got the militaristic bend and more of a just general advanced starships approach, if that makes sense.
Fantastic. So we had Discord user Ed asked what are the differences between the previous HighGuard and the update for 2022. And then Collins continued that with asking what are the significant changes, additions, removals, and anything you'd like to highlight.
Okay, well, there were quite a few, so I can start listing them. Feel free to interrupt with questions on the way. I have quite a bit to say about that. So there are quite a few differences. The basic approach was that Mongoose is in the process of providing updates to its core rulebooks, and Matt wanted to do one for HighGuard. And initially, my role was going to be to write crew descriptions, and then it grew into doing the whole book. So in the process, I got some people together, and we talked about what needs to be done and what the approach should be. And so we tried to shore up some issues with the previous design sequence. Frankly, it's impossible to design a perfect book, and I think Highguard second edition is quite good. However, there's always some little tweaks you can make, and this is an update. So we dug in and tried to find things that we could to add and fix, and just little things that were confusing or inconsistent, and worked on those as well. So so the notable changes that we made were the first thing we tackled was armor. We kind of had a situation in the previous book in which small craft could be armored up as easily as big, powerful battleships, and it kind of created an imbalance where you could have where a collection of fighters, a mass of fighters and small armed small craft could pretty much wreck larger ships with relative ease. And I don't think that was the story that Traveller has always traditionally tried to tell. You're supposed to fear the big ships, and so we modified the armor rules so that they can really pack on the armor, and and also made it a little more difficult for the small craft to put it on. Adventure class ships, your 100 to 2,400 ton ships, remain the same. They're untouched. Kind of wanted to leave that alone so that since they're the bread and butter of Traveller, just kind of let it stay as is. We also altered ship configurations a bit so that when you make choices between them, it means a little more. Something we noticed was the standard configuration seemed to be the go-to. And so we tried to make things a little better where like dispersed structure has a different meaning and streamlined has its costs. There was already some attempt to create differentiation between them, but we altered them so that it's a little more distinct and hopefully works well. We made a big change to weapons. We added in damage multiples. This seemed one of the guys in my group came up with this concept, and at first I was resistant to it, but frankly, he won me over with logic and spreadsheets, and it's an elegant way to provide a more linear scale from turret to spinal weapons, and also for me, the main thing was making medium and large bays more effective. They seem to be except for missile bays, the medium and large bays seem to be ignored as a viable weapon choice for big ships. And we kind of wanted that to change so that they have their role. So now they pack some real punch. And damage multiples in general it's changed things up quite a bit. Combat is quite deadly now, but from my perspective, that's how Traveller is meant to be. So we added a bunch, and we added and updated a lot of options to the options chapter. Probably too many to enumerate here, but we tried to clear up confusion there and inconsistencies where we found them, and add some cool new things and wrinkles. Space stations were simplified. We kind of cut out the repetition that was in the previous edition, which is a fine approach, but just thought, let's just have them leaf back and forth in the book. And then also some corrections and fixes to the space station creation system. A customizing ship section was added, and that's which largely leans on Mongoose version 1's Trillion Credit Squadron, which provides some formulas to when you add and subtract aspects of your ship, and on what's allowable and what isn't. That seemed to be a little bit of a hole that was missing from the previous edition, so we added it in. Sensor section was added to clear up some confusion and add rules to help deal with some additional sensor scenarios, including sensor handoffs that enabling ships to pass sensor data between each other when wanting to detect things in common or dealing with a common foe. We can get more into that a little bit later. So the crew roles chapter was added. That was my initial role for this project was that, and so I took tried to take a very detailed approach to all the crew roles that are described earlier in the book. And I think chapter 1 is just spacecraft construction, and certain crew roles are required for different types of ships. We describe every one of those in detail, trying to provide more detail so referees and players can use these in their campaigns and adventures to kind of add more color to your stories. And then we added an update to fleet battles that it's similar actually to the previous fleet battles approach. Capital ship battles was I think what it was called in the previous edition. This is intended to address battles between big naval ships. And you can use it for small ships as well. It's perfectly capable of handling that. But if you want a nice summarized approach. So at its core, it's very similar to the space combat presented in the core rulebook, but pared down to minimum detail and focused on things that are important to large naval battles. So fleet battles are kind of an interesting animal. They don't really fit well into an RPG since they break away from things that are important to most players, which is playing their characters. So sometimes you'll have seen in previous Traveler editions that fleet battles are actually more handled in separate games. But our attempt here is to provide something you can use in your game or use as dressing for your game if you want to figure out what would have happened had two big fleets fought, or you're playing the commanders or the admirals who are running fleets against each other. I seem to think of what Pirates of Dranax has no spoilers. There might be a need for fleet battles in Pirates of Dranax, depending on how you run your campaign. So there's a possibility. And the other thing I'm thinking of is we've talked for a while. We're going to be releasing a 5th Frontier War line. My hope is that this fleet battle system is something you can use to resolve conflicts between ship elements if you run a 5th Frontier War campaign. So, all right, there's a lot more to be said on that, but I'll move on. Boarding actions is a partially new chapter. Martin Doherty laid the groundwork for this in the Mercenary box set. If you have that in his Specialist Forces book, I took the basics of that and his core concepts and created a more generic approach to boarding actions. The chapter also describes peaceable boarding events, such as being inspected by naval or system defense forces, and then moves on to not so peaceful events in which one side violently boards the other, and adds in some rules to explain a little bit of Traveler that's always kind of bugged me a bit. And that's that we've always been told that cutlasses and small arms are the main weapons of boarding actions. Well, we added in some rules here that explain why that's the case. So if you haven't read it already, please have a look, and you'll see what I mean. And last but hardly least, we redesigned virtually all the ships of the spacecraft of the Third Imperium section, adding in several new ones, taking out a few others. So your previous edition of High Guard is an important collector's item still, since we took out a few of the ships and added in other ones that we thought were valuable for people's campaigns. The most affected ships, of course, are the capital ships, which now benefit from updates to armor and weapons. And as far as what we took out of the book, that would just be the belt mining chapter. I believe the plan is to reprise that material in a much more grandiose fashion down the road, and Matt or someone else can provide you details on that. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I love the idea of a detailed asteroid belt book or series. So that's it. That summarizes High Guard for the changes that we've added to the book.
Thank you so much. That was the best answer we could ask for, really. That was fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ed and Colin, I hope that answers your question. I'm very sure it does. Going off what you've just said then, we have another question here that says, could you give an overview of how the sensor rules plug into the core rules? I think we did touch on that a bit, but...
Yeah, so as an avid player and referee of the game, and I've run space combat quite a few times and been involved in it a few times as well. And we kind of noticed a few confusing things that required house rules. And that's fine. Everyone's got house rules, but we thought we would add a few details to help people clear it up. And one of the things was like initial detection. I don't think that was like the first time you discover that someone else is out there. It's sometimes that or kind of getting some guidelines in place to help you figure that out would be useful. So we described that. Also, stealth. Stealth adds a lot of complication for sensor activities, and you'll encounter that in a Dranax campaign. For those of you familiar with the Harrier, the ship that you get in Dranax, it's loaded with superior stealth, and we always struggled with like lower sensory ships virtually cannot detect your presence, and you just kind of run around as an invisible ship. Is that the story we want to tell or not? So it creates a lot of situations that caused us to ask a lot of questions about stealth technology. So added some rules to try and clear that up here and there. And finally, added in handoff rules. So if one ship in your fleet has better sensors than all the others and picks up an enemy ship, your lesser ships may not detect the presence of the other ship. Each one would have its own, with each ship having its own sensors. So we added rules where the best equipped ship, the most well endowed sensory ship, can hand off sensor detections to its allies, thereby making them participants in any combat that might occur. And
That was wonderful.
That's pretty much it.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
I think that was a very good description. Sorry, I'm complimenting every answer you give right now, but that was fantastic. Thank you.
Sure.
So, next question we have is from Agent Wiggles, and he asks, "What was your favorite part to write?"
Yeah, that's okay. So that's I guess there were a lot of things I enjoyed writing in it, but I think the crew roles section was my favorite to write. I did a lot of I dug through a lot of old traveler books and sources in an effort to try and flesh out all the jobs on the ship and differentiate them from each other. So there was a lot of details added, so it was research intensive, which is always fun. It's always fun to dig up old traveler information and use it in a new way. So I guess that section would probably be my favorite. Although I also liked really writing boarding actions. It felt like even though I didn't directly interact with Martin, it felt like an interaction with his material and kind of a collaboration. He had some great ideas for boarding actions, and taking them and reworking them for a more generic purpose was also very fun. So I don't know, somewhere between those two sections.
Martin's great to be fair. We might try and get him on one of these in the future if that's something that everyone wants to see. No guarantees. He might kill me for saying that, but he did just release a short novel. If people haven't seen it, I've got to throw in a few cheeky plugs here and there. Anyway, so moving on. Kat, what was the
Hello.
what was the graphic and layout staff's favorite section?
Well, I know Sandrine enjoyed formatting the book to the new update 2022 style, changing the layout to be cleaner with better graphics, and including changing the deck plans from their old 3D isometric style to the new 2D layout, which I know this helps with ease for use when playing the games, making them more useful in the games.
Wonderful. So, continuing from that, what are the challenges of editing an RPG book?
You must make sure the writing is clear and concise, especially in the rules text. Ease of use is a major factor here. You should be able to read the line and understand it without needing an extra paragraph or two of explanation. And part of that is consistency, making sure the rules are formatted the same throughout previous texts. That's a big thing with Traveller, as it is such an old IP. Balancing flavor with mechanic text is another challenge. You want to keep the author's vision, but need to minimize squishy text. That means reducing unnecessary words. One of the main offenders being words like that. Most editing work is formatting and ensuring clarity and consistency.
That is wonderful. Thank you. I'll go back to you, Kat. How long did it take to produce the High Guard 2022 update?
Oh my! Well, in total, I think that would be a Chris question. I mean, when did you start writing it, Chris?
Oh man, a long time ago, and it took a while. It took longer than I expected. It's an update, right? I thought it would be like, okay, yeah, we're adding some things and fixing some things. No, it required a lot of attention to detail. I think we might have started it. Uh, I'm trying to think. The initial touches on it were the April before last, so it was a while ago.
Well, there you have your answer, really, because it took from then until just just last week, was it?
Yeah, let's see. I think heavy work on it was about 6 months. We'll put it that way.
Leading off that, our next question, I'm about to butcher this now, I'm really sorry. Tetraton98 asks, to what extent are the additions playtested? And what's your typical approach to playtesting? What's your go and no-go criteria? So Kat, do you want to take that one?
Um, the type and length of playtesting varies a lot between books. A new animal or piece of equipment in an adventure, for example, it does not require much more than an eyeballing by writer, editor, and reviewers. Something like Highguard is much more extensive. And Update 2022 went under the noses of a team gathered by Chris, other writers, our dedicated ship checker, Andrew, and most of the people here at Mongoose HQ. I mean, this is a scale down from a brand new game such as Shield Maidens. The playtesting, we concluded that a little while ago, where full-length games and even campaigns can be played out. With something like Highguard, there's a lot of moving parts, and it can feel a little like herding cats at times. With Update 2022, we had the benefit of it being based on an existing book, so there was a lot of known variables and processes, but at the same time, we were also challenging and modifying an awful lot, even if it was just by degrees.
Exactly. I mean, as Kat mentioned, here at Mongoose, we've been, going through some of the stuff, and the attention to detail is absolutely phenomenal. Going back to Chris, there's been some mention of the style guide. Is there a publicly available summary?
Oh, that might actually be more of a Matt question, but I can answer it to the best of my ability. Yes, he has a style guide, and it's I don't think it's publicly available.
It's not a problem. I've actually got a few notes from Bella that I will read out really quickly. She's our editor here. She says, we do not usually send out more than to other writers. It's quite detailed and refers to spelling, grammar, layout directions, stats blocks, and styles. It is what we follow when we're editing the book, although they are different and different gaming lines. Editing Panora is vastly different from Traveller, etc., etc. So we're going to move on now to more specific ship questions. So, Kat, can you tell us how the L ship lands, the L lab ship?
The L Lab ship. Well, it has a standard hull, which I guess in theory allows it to enter an atmosphere and land. But the lab ship was never intended to land. I mean, that's why it has the pinnace, which I think is actually in the description in the updated 2022 core rulebook. But I mean, travelers could try and land it and probably watch it tip over. I mean, it would be survivable. I just wouldn't advise it.
Yes, if anyone tries that, please let us know. Chris,
Yes.
how would you design a ship to challenge a stock adventure ship?
How would I design a ship to challenge it? I don't know. When I design ships, it's always I try and think not of a specific purpose or like a specific opponent, but more who was involved in the creation of that ship and what did they want to do with it. I also try and imagine cost as being a big factor most of the time. You can throw all kinds of costly options and armor up your ship to max, but they end up being quite expensive. And for an adventure class ship, that's going to be one that the players own, and I should think, unless it was gifted to them, such as the Harrier in Dranax, they've got to pay for it. So cost is a big deal as well. I don't know. That's sort of a babbling answer to your question. Is that what we were after?
I think that was pretty good. I think that was one sent in from someone. I think that was great. Kat, do you want to give that question a whirl?
A designer ship to challenge a stock adventure ship. Well, I'm going to do a shameless plug now because later this year I will be writing on a book, which will be adventure class ships. So I will literally be designing ships to challenge the stock adventure class ships. So watch this space.
Including, you told me in another conversation, alternate lab ships, which
Yeah.
I'm very excited about.
Alternate lab ships, alternate all ships, but only adventure class. So it will be ranging between 100 and 2,000 tons, most likely.
Oh, very excited for that. We're loving a cheeky plug here today, aren't we? Chris, the update mentions that sandcasters are effective against laser, energy, and particle weapons fire. Was this meant to expand the use cases for sandcaster? And how does this work with damage multiples?
Yes, it was intended to expand their use and damage multiples. I would have to look at it to make sure, but I would apply the multiple first, and then find out how much of the sand it gets through. So, in other words, your bigger weapons are going to blast right through that sand. But generally speaking, adventure class ships aren't going to have access to barbettes and larger. At least that is the intention. We've added text in the book to indicate that those are military weapons and you shouldn't see them in general on your smaller ships. That said, the Harrier, as has been mentioned several times, has a particle barbette, and it's now going to hit a lot harder, which makes your piracy choices more complex. But in any case, that's how I would explain how it affects sandcasters.
That was great. Thank you. I got a fun one next. Good Cat. What is your favorite ship?
Okay, that's a very, very tough question. But I mean, I am very, very partial to the Empress Morava class Far Trader. I love that ship. I love the look of that ship. In fact, if you take a look in most of the books I've worked on, I try and squeeze an Empress Morava in there somewhere. I just love that ship. I think it looks cool. It gives me a very Firefly feel, and I love that. Um, that would be my favorite ship out of the ones from Highguard, anyway.
Good choice.
It is. It's such a great ship.
Go on, Matt, take it away. What's yours? Oh, sorry,
Yes.
Matt. Sorry, Chris. Take it away.
Oh, it's me. Okay, I was waiting for Matt to chime in. Matt's here.
I
Um,
forgot I muted him. Sorry.
Mine would be the Type K Safari ship, which I'll shameless plug as well. I've already featured it in an adventure that I wrote for Mongoose.
I remember that one. I worked on that one.
Yes, you did. Invasive species, and I
Awesome
would
adventure.
thank you. And I will be featuring in future adventures, and I hope to actually down the road, once there's time to do more core adventures, have the superb Starling, the one featured in Core Adventure 1, make a new appearance in another adventure, since I like that ship so much.
See, I'm so excited now. I hope I get to work on that book.
Me too. Yeah, that one came out nice. You did a great job on it.
Oh, thank you. You did a great job on it too. Oh, it's
Well,
such a cool adventure.
So, got another one for Chris here. Can you make ships that were once awkward or required a lot of fudging around that are more easy with the new version of Highguard?
uh, no, it doesn't help you to deal with fudging at all. I'd say it probably adds more complexity to the process. I wonder what kind of awkward ships we're talking about here. I'd like to see the designs.
If anyone does have an awkward ship in mind, I haven't got noted down who this question came from, but please let us know to see if we can answer that today. So my next question is for Kat, and it says, with Highguard and the Cool Rules getting 2022 updates, is Traveller Companion due for a similar update? If so, which areas of Traveller Companion would you like to see addressed?
Well, it will, but probably not until around 2024 at least. And it's the same with the vehicle handbook. It's not something we've started to look at yet. We're already got a mix of stuff in the works.
Yes, we do have some very exciting stuff coming up. Kat has made reference to the one that she's currently working on. You may have seen that JTAS is just been just had the first drafts through. Very exciting.
That was such a satisfying thing, seeing the actual paper versions. I don't know what it is about paper versions of book. I love a book in its paper format rather than a PDF, and seeing the books for the first time, even if it was the preview ones. It's a great experience when you've worked so hard on a project.
100% in agreement.
Amazing. They're going to be very exciting to see. I'm excited for you all to get to see them all for yourselves. Going back to Chris, the Anik Nova was absent in the new Highguard. Was that thanks to round of 100T guidance, or can we expect an update to the adventure in some point in the future?
I have no plans for an update to it, but it was deliberate. I just thought it would be kind of cool for your original version of Highguard to have some uniqueness to it. We cut out a few of the designs that were in that book, and it wasn't because we didn't like them. It was just we thought we would take out a few and add a few, such as one of the contributing writers to it added the jump shuttle, which takes transports system defense boats which do not have their own jump drives from system to system. This ship was mentioned in the old Traders and Gunboats in Classic Traveler, and he took it and brought it to. It's sort of an obscure reference in that book, and he made it a ship for the new Highguard. And we did that with other designs as well.
That is fantastic. I've got another really good one here, to be fair. So Beth asks, what inspired you to work on RPGs? Did you grow up with the passion, or was it manifested later in life? Chris, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. I guess it's mostly just a love of science fiction and mostly space opera, and wanting to participate in it. I think when I was like in middle school or something, I was introduced to Dungeons and Dragons, and that was fine, and I enjoyed it. But I thought, wouldn't this would be so much better if it were sci-fi, and then discovered Traveler. So had a passion for it since I was really young. I've played almost all the editions of Traveler and many other RPGs as well. As far as writing for them, I've always liked writing, and I've contributed to Traveler over the years in various fan forums since a long time ago. And I was very pleased when Matt gave me the opportunity to write for Mongoose proper.
That is wonderful. Kat, do you want to tell us your story?
I've been playing RPGs since I was about 7 years old. I mean, I started like everyone. Most people start on D&D. It's the gateway RPG. And I started there, but my love of sci-fi is far stronger than my love of fantasy. And Traveler, well, I've been refereeing and playing Traveler now for the better part of 20 years. So getting to work on the books now is just mind-blowingly awesome.
Oh, Kat, continue on then. What are the future books you'd love to work on?
Oh, okay. There are so many books I would love to work on. I don't know if I'm going to be able to work on them all, but I know that I'm really excited about the prequel and sequel to Secrets of the Ancients, which is a couple books that are currently being worked on and written. I wouldn't mind having a pop at the vehicle handbook, the update 2022. There are a lot of books I'd love to work on. I mean, like loads. If I'm given a traveler book to work on, I am happy.
I think that is the perfect answer, to be fair. Okay, Chris, do you want to try and top that? What are future books you'd love to work on?
Well, I probably can't top it, but I definitely have an answer to it. So I do have a couple big projects lined up right now. A big campaign book that's based in core sector, and it's going to blow your minds. It's really different for a traveler. It incorporates a lot of things from more current science fiction. Most of Traveler is based on the science fiction of the 40s through 70s. This kind of brings it up to date with your Alistair Reynolds and your E.N.M. Banks, and other more current authors. Also got Jordani Consulate is something I'll be writing, which is basically going to be like the Third Imperium book, but for the Jordani. And I've done a lot of preliminary work on that already, and consulted with Mr. Mark Miller on that quite a bit. He has a lot of thoughts about the Jordani. I'm surprised at how much input he gave, and how much interesting feedback he had to offer on such a project. But a project I'd really like to do is I'd like to redo merchant prints. And hopefully I get a shot at that if I can just get through these other projects that keep getting in the way. Merchant prints, I think there's a lot that we could add to one of the traditional staples of Traveler campaigns, which is the trader campaign. And then so many other types of campaigns around commerce and smuggling and piracy and all those things that would be really interesting in one complete tome.
That is fantastic. Oh, so as you all can now hear, there's some very exciting stuff in the works. So naturally, I need to do a shameless plug. Thank you all for joining our Discord server. But if you do want to head to our link tree and follow us on our other social medias, where we've just done an insight into some of the books. We've done Deep Night Revelation. I'll have some of Pirates of Dranax for you soon. There's a lot of Shield Mail content on there. So yes, we're working on some great stuff, and I like to spread about where I give you all sneak peeks of them. So we have some more questions that were from today. So Kat, is it easy to predict how big the art pieces will be, or does the layout happen first, which determines the size of the art?
Right. So layout happens first. Basically, all the text goes into the book first, and that actually determines how much space we have for art. So we never know what kind of art is needed for the book or where the pieces of art will be until layouts happened.
Wonderful. So are there any unexpected difficulties in the layout process?
Well, the layout process can change as you're working on a book. So sometimes that can cause problems, but that's okay. That's my job.
There's another one here. I think Agent Wiggles, thank you for sending these in. This says, do you have any feedback from the authors, especially with regard to what art direction they gave you, or do they not give you anything but you wish you had?
Now, see, art direction from the authors is always appreciated. I love trying to get inside an author's mind and envision what they're trying to portray. And art direction helps with that a lot. So it is always very, very appreciated. However, because we never know what kind of art we can and can't have in a book until layouts happened, we can't always use all of the art directions. And also sometimes being one of the layout artists, sometimes we'll have an epiphany and we'll really want to see something specific. So art direction is really, really appreciated. We always try and get what the author is envisioning into the book, first and foremost.
Chris, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that with giving art direction?
Oh, it's good to know. I always thought I was abusing you guys with my ridiculous piles of art direction, and I didn't know it was appreciated or if it was like, "Wait, what is Chris thinking with these 57 art requests?" No, I like to. I figure if you can't fit it in, you won't use it. But if I can imagine an art piece that would probably be helpful or cool to add into a page, I do not hesitate to include it in my manuscripts. So
We love it. It's
nice to
great.
know, Kat. Thank you.
Wonderful. So, Matt, not, oh, sorry, I just spoke to Matt. We'll go with Kat. Is there any difference working on this kind of book compared to other manuscripts?
I'm afraid I've only worked on RPG books, so I wouldn't know what other manuscripts would be like to work on.
Chris?
So the question is like, is it different than other types of manuscripts? Yeah, I am not a published author in any other format. Although we do have we're working on a traveler graphic novel, and that type of writing is very different. I had a little experience with that from the past, and that is quite different. And you have to really tightly collaborate with the artist on it. Um, but it's a ton of fun. So hopefully you guys will all see more on that later and some preview art. We've got a really good artist working on this book, and frankly, the work is stunning.
That is fantastic. I do tell everyone all the time that we just have an incredibly talented team. I mean, you all know the quality of writing and art and the beauty of our books. So, no surprise, we have some good talent among us. So, that is all the questions I've got written down. But if anyone wants to drop anything in the comments, you can go onto the chat here. Or I have seen there's a bit of engagement in our general chat. So, I'll just pop over there quickly. And if anyone wants to drop anything in, now's your chance. If you wanted to put it on the thread with chat with Mongoose, that would be wonderful. Okay, I can't see anything so far. Oh, Kat, we've got one here that says if you want help making ACS Challenger ships, Winged Cat is volunteering as tribute.
Nice. Sure, email me an idea or a stat loadout you have. Obviously, I haven't started on the book yet, so I honestly I don't know what's going to be going into it precisely just yet. But when I start work on it, I'll look at any submissions you're willing to offer.
Another one here says that the last Kickstarter update for JTAS 7 to 12 is they were starting getting print reviews or getting close to actually printing. Oh, sorry, I thought that was going to be a question then. Sorry, Agent Wiggles.
That's okay. Hopefully, I can give some info to help answer that. So, JTAS has been given the green light to go to print. It hasn't started printing yet, and obviously, it was a Kickstarter, so the Kickstarter backers will be first to receive copies. But it should be going on sale probably early next year, I would guess.
You are in for such a treat there. My personal favourite, I'm throwing it out there, has got to be Boo and Embla.
Boo and Embla. That was an idea I had, and we were actually playing those characters. Literally, Bella and me are Boo and Embla. They're our characters from an RPG, and we both came up with the escapades that they're going through the galaxy, and it's a really good way of profiling systems and planets and little things. I mean, even like a food menu. We did a menu for certain types of food. I think someone mentioned back along that they would really like to see some space food and how much it would cost. So we included that in there as well. It's a really nice special book. I love that book.
We've got another here that says, "Is Merchant Prince something you would look at doing someday?"
Merchant Prince. I don't know if that one's on the table to be done anytime soon. I'm afraid I've not read that one. So, but I'm game to do any Traveller book. I love Traveller.
Chris, is that something that you'd be willing to work on?
Oh yeah, I mentioned it earlier in our talk here. Yeah, it's I really would like to redo Merchant Prince. I've got some really good ideas for that one. I've had a lot of discussions about it with other Traveller aficionados, and I would like to tackle that as soon as possible. I think we could really make add some interesting wrinkles to trader and merchant campaigns.
Wonderful. So, questions about stealth and sensor. Any rules on silent running? Oh, Winged Cat has actually replied to that. So, page 76 has a list of DMs to detect if a ship is running or that system. Thus, those DMs are not there, and the ship is harder to detect if the ship is not running anything. Is there anything either of you would like to add to that?
No, Winged Cat would know. He's a High Guard 2022 co-author, so it's a good answer. Yeah, we do kind of cover that some. It was a consideration. I can say this: back in the TNE days of Traveller, we would use brilliant lances for ship combat, and the problem with brilliant lances is it would take the whole gaming session and you wouldn't do any role playing. But it's super detailed, and you would end up in these kind of silent running encounters that felt a lot like submarine warfare. So I think I understand what the question's about, but we just kind of gloss over it in High Guard and the sensor rules, because the goal of a lot of these rules is to get back to the role playing. We don't want you to be distracted from that in something that takes a significant amount of time. So it's just kind of described briefly, and if you're not running anything that makes you detectable, then you can run silent. Hopefully that answers the question.
That was wonderful. Thank you. Sorry, Winged Cat. Obviously, we all have wild Discord usernames there. I'm not familiar with who everyone is entirely yet. Sorry. Let me just have another look through. We are using up all the channels, which I'm not complaining about because I love the engagement, but it will just take me a little second. So one from Fluffy Squirrel here says, mostly just curious about the intended way of working up to bigger shipyards was. As to build a shipyard on station, or indeed a station in the first place, you tend to need a bigger shipyard than one you're currently building. Currently, we figured out you could make a planet-side base and the station's shipyard components and carry them onto space to assemble, which we figured out would be okay for a small crafting station, but you'd need zero-G shipyards for jump cable ships with the wibbly law reasons. Chris, do you want to take that one?
That sounds great. I haven't worked it out to that level of detail. When writing rules, the goal is always to provide a nice framework for you to work in and answer enough questions to pique your own creativity and not have you asking too many, feeling like you weren't given enough. That level of detail is terrific. I don't know that I could add anything to that. It sounds great.
Wonderful. Let me have a little scroll. So thank you, Wincat. You've answered a few of these. Let me see. So I'll just read out Wincat's response there. This isn't high garb, but there's a book being proposed that's planned to, as part of this context, address this topic. Ooh, very exciting. For now, you can also do a colonization adventure in JTAS 11 for a quick and dirty way to do this. So we'll continue on. What would ship progression look like for an aspiring merchant prince? Free trader, fast trader, then which larger options?
Oh, like a larger trade ship. Look no further than well, we've got some examples. We've got the Leviathan, which I would expect to include a good section on that type of ship in a new Merchant Prince book. The exploratory trade ship. And it kind of reminds me, if you've ever read Foundation by Isaac Asimov, the talking about trade as a method of recontacting and reaching out into dangerous areas. That's what the Leviathan is designed for. So that's kind of, you could say that's the next step up. And then we've got in the new High Guard, we've got the Al-Marai bulk carrier. That's like a 3,000 ton trade ship. And you could really run a campaign around a ship like that because it probably would ply the spinward main. And you could be crew on it. You could have, much like the naval campaign source book, you could have a merchant campaign source book situation where the ship is the central location of the campaign, and your characters are doing things associated with working for the mega corporation, making trade deals, etc. Sort of a step up from your tramp trader. And then you could go all the way to the Gallicula Megula, or Gallica Megula, enormous multi-hundred thousand ton bulk freighter, which, I mean, in principle, it doesn't sound like the most exciting thing, but again, a creative referee could put an interesting campaign around such a ship as it does its job in a populated area. And I don't know, that's pretty much all the. Well, the other thing would be subsidized merchant campaigns. I wrote an article in JTAS for the first set of JTAS books, differentiating subsidized merchant campaigns from tramp trader campaigns. So that would be yet another type of ship that could be covered. It's a different animal, and as described in the old Traveler adventure, it's you can approach a campaign using that ship very differently than you do with your Beowulf class or your Empress Morava.
That is wonderful. Speaking of JTAF, we have definitely sparked some interest. So, Kat, when do we expect to see the new JTAS?
Probably next year, early next year, at a guess. But we'll probably have print copies and we'll take a photo of them when they arrive in office. But obviously, those would be the backer copies that arrive first.
Wonderful. Got another question here from Gabriel saying, when does Mongoose open up submissions for these articles?
Right. So unfortunately for the issues 7 to 12, submissions, well, obviously the books have already been made, so we can't take any more submissions for those. However, I would guess that it's very likely we will do more JTAS in the future. So it is really a case of watching our social media, and as soon as Matt opens up submissions for the next JTAS, get your articles in. You'll have a little bit of time yet, so plenty of time to get writing away and make those final adjustments on whatever adventure you're working on, or ship, or whatever article you decide to submit for the next one.
Wonderful. So we have a question here that says, what is the review process for externally submitted art? Kat?
Sorry, submitted art? So, I mean, do you mean how do we choose our artists?
Is that what you mean, Wing?
So, each of the layout artists have their own group of artists which do art for each book. And when we've done the layout of a book, we take a look at what space is available for art, and then we decide what art pieces would best go into those spaces. Now, like we mentioned earlier, if we have art direction to go by, we eagerly try and take that into account. And then we decide on which illustrator would be best to take on each individual piece of art. So we have specific illustrators that are really good at cover art. We have some that are good at characters, some that are good at creatures, some that are good at vehicles, some that are good at starships. And that is why whenever you see, if you look in the contents of any of our books, you'll see there's quite a number of artists that contribute to each book. And that's because they're all very good at different things. And so we pick different artists to do different things in each of our books.
That is fantastic. Thank you very much. So we have another question here from Michael. It says concealed M drives on page 45, hints that thrusters can be used 25% of their thrust to the side. Assuming up and down are also sides, how does thrust one ship land and take off? Or perhaps G compensators are able to counter up their rating in external planetary gravity. Chris?
Well, you might not use it in situations like that. Maybe you don't use, or maybe the ship has access to both types of maneuver drives. There's a number of ways you could go about it in your designs. However, that technology that we added into in the update was derived from an old the description of maneuver drives that was in the Starship Operator's Manual from Mega Traveler. There's some cool diagrams that show that thrusters generally are designed to press or to apply force in one direction, but you can get minimal amounts in other directions. And so we extrapolated on that to create that technology.
Wonderful. So I'm just going to move back into the chat with Mongoose section. See what questions we've got in here. So we've got one here from Grimsold that says, the wording on the Mason screen description seems a bit confusing. Could you explain how this is supposed to work? Chris?
Oh boy, I'd have to look at it. I apologize. I don't have it all memorized. Please submit your feedback though via either the forums or other avenue, and we can consider incorporating that into the book if there's an issue that we determine exists.
Yes. Regarding that question, Graham, I will look into that for you. So I'll message you on Discord actually with the answer to that one, or I can put it in the chat so the rest of you can read it as well. So Fluffy Squirrels continued that and said, this is an excellent point. I remember the screens seeming like they didn't work and knew multipliers correct, forgot that. But I remember seeing Etcher was happening and haven't seen if there are any fixes. This seems to be a reoccurring point then. So I will look into this for you and I will make it a announcement on the Traveller page here. And I will also go and put that on our forum. For the people who are watching the recording, I might put this in the comments so everyone is up to date with that. The last question I have so far, I'll go check the other channels in just a second, is from Tupper, and it says, the fleet critical suggests there's a percentage damage for hull criteria. Do you suggest using this standard combat for big ships?
I'm having a hard time understanding that. Can you repeat the question? I'll see if I can answer it.
Of course. Sorry, I didn't read that very clearly. It says, the fleet critical suggests a percentage damage for hull criticals. Do you suggest using this in standard combat for big ships?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. I think that the fleet combat is rules are designed to, they are going to be, let's see, how can I phrase this best? You will see differences between that and standard space combat. So technically the results aren't going to be identical between the two. The fleet combat's designed to be streamlined and get you from point A to point B without too much time spent on the process. If you want, the hope is that if you pitted two big, battleships with each other using standard space combat, the results will be similar. Yeah, I hope that's a viable answer. I think what the question is getting at is that the results are going to be different between the two. We're striving for a streamlined and simple approach with the new fleet combat, even if it somewhat differentiates from space combat in the core rulebook.
That's a great answer. I'm just going to jump back into the Traveler text channel. We've got a question from Fluffy Squirrel. I'm about to absolutely butcher the pronunciation of this, sorry. Do spinal meson guns irate everything in their path, or only the targeted points, which is how they ignore armor? Only, much like how you can hide them underground on a planet, I did hypothesize that having a spinal mason in the center of a station on a full 3D spinal mount and just shooting the station. We're not sure if this irates anyone between or not.
Yeah, good question. I don't think so. I think Mason. Okay, so Mason technology I've heard described by people years after it was first invented by the writers of Classic Traveler. Let's see, 40 something years ago, and it's since then been described that that's not what it would do. So it's you're kind of we've got a fictitious technology here, but my sense of it is that it's designed to cause the decay that causes an explosion at the point of attack. So if you got a deep sight Mason gun underground on a planet and you're firing up, it's not irradiating everything on the way up, and they don't have to clear the surface of the planet where where it's fired from on the way out. That's my sense of it. I know it's really not accurately described what's in the path, but that's my take on it.
Oh, that is great, thank you. Oh, we have a comment here. Fluffy Squirrel says, not really a question, but just wanted to say that I really love the Starship art for the new High Guard 2022. Really look fantastic looking. And Collins continued that, saying, I'd love to buy a Mongoose art book. We've actually had this comment quite a lot recently. And as I said earlier, we really do have an absolutely fantastic team. And we do have this come up a lot. And I think it is something that would be great to look into in the future. Obviously, no promises, but this is a reoccurring point. Just going to have a little scroll through again. So bear with me, everyone. One here that says, if a ship has a thrust of 1 gram, how can it take off a 1G or greater planet? It would never exceed the thrust needed to leave the planet. Oh, that's a good one. Chris?
It's a good one, and Martin has answered it. And if you have the Soleimani front, it's tucked away in the description of a size size 10 planet, and it describes how you go about it. And I don't remember the details of his description, but I liked it, and I think it might have been referenced somewhere in the update, possibly in the section on maneuver drives. So if you don't have that book, I'm sorry, I just don't have recollection of the details, but I did think Martin gave it a nice treatment.
It's fantastic. Thank you. Let me have another look through.
Yeah, sorry about that. That if you don't have that book, it is I'll have to take a look, but I think it's in the 2022 update in some shape or form, the description of how to do that.
That is wonderful.
It might have to do with having your engineer force the maneuver drives to do more than they can, risking damage to the drive or something like that. Anyway.
That is great. I think that is all the questions I can see for now, but we do have a comment here in the art book saying it would be great if it did happen and there was a digital version as well, that each piece could be their own vector image like in VTTS. And like 2 products in one. No, that is a really great point. I think it's definitely something we need to consider here.
Something I'd like to say about the art that goes into our books. A lot of the artists we're very good friends with. It's beyond just work. It's a friendship. And so a lot of personal things go into the art especially in every book that I've worked on. And there are loads and loads and loads of little Easter eggs in the art if you pay special attention to them. So that's all I'm going to say. Happy hunting.
We were talking about the Easter eggs earlier, actually. They are absolutely fantastic. It would be great if we went into that one. Like, maybe we'll throw a few out there. Okay, I don't think I've missed any, but if I have missed anyone's questions, if you just want to throw them back in, copy and paste them in. Could we get JPEGs of ship maps for Highguard for use on VTT? I think that's something that we could look into. That's a really nice question. Sorry. Yes, I will look into that and I will get back to you on that one. I just saw a really nice question. I've lost it now. I think it was from Gabriel though. And it just says, "Are you having a nice day?" Chris, you having a nice day?
I'm having a great day. Thank you, Gabe.
Kat?
I am having a fantastic day. Today is so cool. I mean, we're sitting here and we're talking live with all people who love Traveller. This is awesome.
Yes, this is great. We've had a fantastic day in the office. Kat's been especially happy. We got her favorite for dinner. We had a chili dog. So all
I
has
love chili
been
dogs.
all has been well here. Yes, we actually got the pleasure of speaking to Frank, who does Mayday, and we were speaking yesterday about how wonderful it is to, be in these Discord chats where we can speak to the traveler community and have so many of you in one place. It is absolutely fantastic.
Plus, chili dogs.
She was so happy. She normally gets outvoted.
Noted. Chili dogs make for a good Friday.
Chili dogs make for an awesome Friday.
I'll have one more quick whiz through.
Chili dogs and Traveller does not get much better.
We have one from Gribbly saying, "Where is my chili dog? You've got to come to Swindon." Visit the bright and sunny UK. Is there anything else from anyone? One more question. Go on. What is the most popular beer in the galaxy? Does anyone have an answer for that?
Scout Brew.
Scout Brew.
I think that's an old JTAS reference.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
Scout Brew. Sounds hoppy.
Who knows what's in it? But I'm sure if you travel the galaxy long enough, you find that you can cause just about anything to ferment.
It's giving the same vibes as a Krabby Patty. That's how I'm picturing it. Agent Wiggles, don't stress. It's all right. We can wait for your question if you've got one. Don't spill any. I will eat the deck plates. I'm getting the notifications. I need to find what channel this is on. Everyone's loving the chili dogs. You should have seen Kat. She was earlier. She was so happy. I went for a different one for those curious. Mine had pulled pork on it.
They call it the Detty dog.
Jetty dog, yes.
Someone's mentioned old speckled droin as a good beer to go with the chili dog.
Oh, yes.
Submitted by Gribbly.
Whilst those last few questions are being typed, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone that's turned up today. Thank you for Chris and Kat for being here, especially you, Chris. I know that you're in a different time zone. And Kat's having a lovely evening, spending those extra few hours with me before she disappears on holiday next week.
My pleasure. You've timed it with, virtually timed it with my lunch hour, so this is nice.
Oh, there's our question. It says it's not a high guard question, but the books of Chartered Space Secrets rumored would be cool. We have loose and probably incomplete list of secrets and rumors on the Wikipedia, like Secrets Third Imperium J6 carriers. Any input on that?
I'm not sure I understood that one.
I mean, there is so many. The great thing about Traveller is you can drop your own inventions in at any time. One of the most fun things I've experienced in being a referee is making up secrets. And in some cases, you can get those ideas published, like with JTAS. So if you do come up with any, fun, especially things to do. I mean, I'm a big fan of ancients and all of the artifacts you can find out there, all of the sites. So I mean, if you keep making those ideas, bring them to the next JTAS, because we're always eager to hear what ideas you have when it comes to things like that.
I'm going to be absolutely fantastic. So Winged Cat says, if we want one last question, what is the secret of the black ships?
What's the saying that people say? If I told you that, I'd have to kill you. All I'll say is I know, and I'm not saying.
Oh, it's the secrets. We can't be sharing it.
Someone would be very angry with me if I publicize that.
Maybe next time if I get more followers. No. No. I do just want to say a massive thank you again. As I mentioned, I haven't been here very long, and this Discord channel was set up just over a month ago. And we now have over 440 members on here. So a massive thank you to everyone that's joined and everyone that's tuned in tonight. I know that obviously we're in the UK and the time hasn't worked out as well as it could have for everyone, but it's really been a pleasure to chat to you all on Discord and speak to more of you tonight. So if anyone has any last minute questions, I think that may be it. So a massive thank you to Chris and Kat for joining me tonight and for everyone for tuning in. Chris, would you like to give a little outro?
Thanks everyone for your questions. I hope you enjoy the new High Guard update. It was a challenging book to write, and I couldn't have done it without the group that helped me out with it. And then of course Mongoose editorial and Sandrine putting it all together. So I'm thrilled and I'm humbled to have been involved with the project.
Fantastic. Kat, what about you?
I'm just so happy to see so many people here tonight. All I really have to say is, fly free, travelers.
Oh, that was a perfect last line. Oh, should have ended it there, but I'm gonna swoop back in. Sorry. I don't think I'm gonna top that, but here's to continue to expand our community and hopefully doing more events like this in the future. So as you all know on Discord, I'm very open to everyone's feedback. So if you want to drop that in, that'd be absolutely fantastic. Let us know what you want to see more of in the future. So yes, we've got some very exciting things coming up. And as you can see, I like wheeling in some guest stars. But yes, this has been absolutely fantastic. If you would like to buy the new HighGuard update, then if you go to our link tree, it is the top link there. And as I mentioned earlier, I need to plug it again, but follow us on all of our social media channels, because I do like to spread around where I drop some inside sneak peeks and some look ats of our products. So a massive thank you, everyone, for coming out. It's been fantastic. Thank you very much.